Good morning, everyone. My name is Adam Livingston, and I am the Bitcoin Wizard. Welcome to episode 3 of Escape the Matrix, Capital, Structure, and the Staircase to Prosperity. If you want a video to show your friends and family the power of Bitcoin, starting from absolute first principles, this is it. Let me ask you a question that should terrify you more than your checking account balance. Where does wealth actually come from? No, not from printing, not from GDP charts made by interns with Excel, and definitely not from the government investing in infrastructure, which is usually code for digging holes, filling them in, and giving a press conference. Wealth does not come from spending. That's what children do with birthday money. Real wealth comes from capital, but not just from having capital, building it the right way, at the right time, in the right order. It's not just a stockpile, it's a structure. Most economists treat capital like it's a bucket of Legos. More pieces equals more prosperity. But Austrians, we ask if the thing actually fits together, if it forms a ladder or a beautiful mess on your floor that someone's gonna step on with their bare feet at 2 a.m. Today, we dive into the staircase to prosperity. We'll talk about what capital really is, why stacking it wrong causes recessions, and how fake interest rates turn architects into lunatics building helipads on sheds. We'll unpack how fiat systems slowly euthanize civilization without firing a shot, and why most people won't even notice the collapse until the Amazon package doesn't show up. If you're ready to stop measuring wealth by what you can consume and start seeing it in what you can sustainably produce, then strap in. Now today we're building stairs because that's what real wealth is, a climb, not a windfall, not a stimmy check, not a loot box with NFTs in it, a staircase. This isn't just about capital in the way your HR department uses it. Human capital, brand capital, synergy capital. No, we're talking real Austrian capital. The goods used to make other goods sequenced over time aligned with actual savings and real preferences. See, most economists treat capital like it's furniture in The Sims. Click and place. More stuff equals more output. But Austrian economics looks at how it all fits together because the truth is, capital is only productive when it's ordered, timed, and coordinated by someone with skin in the game and an eye on the future. If you mess up the structure, you stack the wrong tools in the wrong order based on fake signals, you don't just waste resources, you waste time, you waste people. You build staircases to nowhere, hand out hard hats, and wonder why everyone's unemployed in 3 years. Capital isn't a pile, it's a process, and when you understand it, you'll stop seeing prosperity as a spending problem and start seeing it as an architecture problem. Capital is not money. It's not your Robinhood balance. It's not the number next to your favorite stock ticker. That's just paper. Capital is tools, produced means of production, stuff used to make other stuff. A hammer? Capital. A 3D printer? Capital. A cold storage warehouse? Capital. A TikTok dance about crypto? Not capital, sorry. But here's the real insight. Capital is more than stuff. It is a sequence. It's time extended. A hammer is just metal until someone knows how and when to use it to build a house, not beat a microwave open. Capital is a chain of goods and knowledge used over time to transform raw inputs into final goods. You don't just snap your fingers and get an iPhone. You mine minerals, you build circuits, you train engineers, you run logistics, and then get something shiny to break on Black Friday. And all of that capital, it takes savings. You have to consume less now to fund the time and the tools needed to produce more later. That is the law of capital formation. No savings equals no tools equals no production, just delivery delays. And here's what they never teach you in macro. Capital only works when 3 things align: time, skill, and coordination. Break one leg of that tripod and the whole thing collapses. You don't just lose output, you lose structure. Modern economists treats capital like coins in a sack. Austrians see it more like a living machine. If you don't maintain it, fund it, and use it wisely, it rusts, it withers, it disappears quietly while you're arguing about stimulus on Twitter. So from now on, think of capital as frozen time and intelligence, stored effort, saved coordination, information and tools that extend human ability across time. Because if you don't understand what capital really is, you'll never understand why it disappears so easily, and why fiat cultures are constantly cannibalizing it like termites in a cathedral. Let's keep climbing. Alright, now that you know what capital is, let's talk about why most economists butcher it beyond recognition. Mainstream economists treat capital like it's soup. Just stir it all together and call it K. Bulldozer, bakery oven, surgeon, spreadsheet, whatever. Add it up, slap a price tag on it, chart the GDP, and pat yourself on the back. Austrian economics says absolutely not. Capital is heterogeneous. It's not a stack of tokens. It's a system of interdependent tools, people, processes, plans, all organized time across a specific goal. At the risk of repeating myself, let me make an example that makes the point. Imagine trying to run a bakery with a bulldozer, a VR headset, and 5 interns with master's degrees in interpretive dance. That might be a lot of capital by dollar value, but it's structured like a fever dream. You'll go bankrupt with excellent equipment. Or imagine a hospital with no nurses, 12 MRI machines, and a barista. Lots of capital, no order, nothing works. That's what happens when you ignore structure. Austrians look at capital like it is a symphony. Every instrument matters, but if the drummer starts early and the violinist starts reading from the wrong sheet music, well, it sounds like a car crash inside a blender. And when you misbuild capital, wrong timing, wrong sequence, wrong tools, the bust comes. Why? Because all those misaligned capital goods start throwing off losses. That bakery closes, the startup folds, the office sits empty. Not because there wasn't enough capital, but because the structure was broken. This is what mainstream economists never grasp. They see a slowdown and yell stimulus. Austrians see a busted capital structure and say, start over, carefully, with real signals. That's why Austrian theory sees recessions not as a lack of demand, but as a hangover from a boom where entrepreneurs, based on fake interest rates, tried to build staircases to Disneyland using blueprints drawn in crayon. Structure oversums, folks. That's the rules. It's not about how much capital you have. It's about whether your capital actually fits together over time to produce something people want when they want it. And when that fails, you don't get a soft landing. You get an empty office park and a press release about unexpected volatility. Capital is not a vending machine. You don't shove money in and get prosperity on demand. There is no press A3 for economic output button. Capital is a staircase. And if you skip steps, you fall. No exceptions. Every good you use today, your laptop, your coffee, and your Scooby-Doo mug, your imported avocados, sits at the top of a massive invisible staircase of production. That staircase starts with raw materials and goes through layers of transformation. Mining, refining, shipping, assembling, packaging, distribution. Hundreds of coordinated steps, timed correctly, each relying on the one before it. You don't see the staircase, you just tap your phone and the coffee shows up at your doorstep. But remove one step, say the shipping route or the packaging facility or the factory that makes the rubber seals for the espresso machine, and suddenly your morning ritual becomes a 90-minute existential crisis. I can relate to that existential crisis, let me tell you what. Let's break the staircase down Austrian style. Lower order goods are raw inputs, tools, labor, training. Mid-order capital would be machines, supply chains, infrastructure. Higher order capital would be inventory, logistics, marketing, distribution. And consumer goods, you know, the shiny thing you Instagram before throwing it away. Each step in the chain is roundabout. It delays gratification now for greater output later. That's the miracle. Roundabout production lets us get more by consuming less now, but only if the structure is properly funded, coordinated, and sequenced. Now here is the fiat world horror. Modern economies want the top of the staircase, the phones, the cars, the avocado toast, without building or maintaining the steps. They want the goods without the tools, the consumption without the capital. So they subsidize the vending machine. They print coupons for the top shelf and wonder why the staircase collapses like a dollar store Jenga set. Capital doesn't work like Amazon Prime, folks. It works like a slow-moving construction site, delayed by real constraints, bound by time, skill, and savings. Skip those steps and you don't just get bad products, you get nothing. The shelf goes empty, the light goes off. And here is the philosophical kill shot, folks. The more complex the goods you enjoy, the longer and more delicate the staircase is that produced them. Civilization is not defined by what it consumes, but by what it's capable at producing at the end of a long chain of intelligent steps. You want to rebuild a future? Protect the staircase. Fund the staircase, respect the sequence, or get used to vending machines full of IOUs and press conferences. Let's talk about the people who actually build it next. Now we meet the one person insane enough to climb the staircase before it exists, the entrepreneur. Mainstream econ treats entrepreneurs like statistical footnotes. Austrian economics treats them like warlocks decoding future scarcity using price signals, gut instinct, and a calculator they stole from God. Entrepreneurs aren't just risk takers, they're capital architects. Their job isn't to guess what product is trendy, their job is to align capital goods, labor, time, and uncertain consumer preferences into a structure that will deliver value later. Think of them as time travelers with skin in the game. They peer into the murky fog of future demand and say, 3 months from now, someone will want this. So I'm gonna build that, hire these, rent those, and pray the Fed doesn't hallucinate another rate cut. This is where the Austrian brilliance kicks in. The entrepreneur isn't just building stuff, they're building temporary extended production plans that depend on real preferences, real savings, and accurate price signals. And what's their reward? Profit if they're right, loss if they're wrong. Profit loss isn't just about who deserves money, it's the feedback mechanism that tells you whether your staircase connects to a door or a brick wall. And here's the dangerous part: when you subsidize failure, manipulate interest rates, or ban losses through regulation, you don't make bad businesses more fair, you break the compass. You turn entrepreneurs into blindfolded carpenters building staircases into the abyss, funded by taxpayers and narrated by McKinsey. That's how you get massive ghost cities, apps no one uses, factories that make nothing, and millions in VC burned on solving problems that don't exist. So the next time someone says, "Why should that guy get rich for taking a risk?" remember, entrepreneurs are not rewarded for guessing. They're rewarded for coordinating capital better than the guy next to them, and aligning it with what people want before those people even know it. That's not exploitation, that's civilization maintenance. And when entrepreneurs get the wrong signal, the staircase leads to recession. Let's talk about how that happens next. This is where the staircase catches fire. The entrepreneur, brave soul, is building a complex, time-based structure. He's got capital goods lined up, workers trained, and supply chains humming. But his blueprint demands one thing being true: that the interest rate reflects real time preference, real savings. Now enter the arsonist in a suit, the central bank. They press the big red button marked stimulate. Interest rates drop like a politician's integrity. And suddenly every entrepreneur hears the same sweet lie: savings are plentiful, long-term projects are totally safe, everyone wants what you're building. Spoiler, they don't. What's happening is that the price of time has been faked. And when you fake time, you misalign structure. Entrepreneurs launch projects that only make sense if people are actually saving. But they're not. They're financing pool floats and crypto tattoos with 0% APR. So capital goods flood into long production stages, just in time for consumers to go, "Actually, I'm broke and I just bought a flamethrower on Afterpay." That gap between plans and reality, that's your bust. The economy isn't crashing because demand vanished, it's crashing because entrepreneurs were lied to by a rate that said build higher, when in reality the ground beneath was made of frosted Pop-Tarts and IOUs. This is the Austrian business cycle theory. Artificially low rates create demand for long-term capital goods. Malinvestment floods the economy. Reality asserts itself when the money runs out. Projects fall, people get laid off and Paul Krugman writes another column about unexpected weakness. Let me give you the metaphor you'll never forget. Faking interest rates is like handing out blueprints for 50-story buildings, then quietly removing the scaffolding at floor 18. When the collapse happens, everyone blames capitalism, but capitalism didn't misprice time, the central bank did. So what's the solution? Let interest rates reflect reality. Let savings discipline investment. Let entrepreneurs get punched by real loss. Because building without signal isn't investment, it's performance art with bulldozers. Alright, so we've seen what happens when we fake the signal, now let's see what happens when we quietly destroy the structure itself. Everyone's obsessed with the crash, the headlines, the bankruptcies, the panicked talking heads, but the real destruction, it doesn't look like an explosion, it looks like a leaky pipe. This is how fiat actually destroys capital, not with chaos, but with corruption. A quiet rot in the foundation of every structure you rely on. Let me explain. Capital, remember, is time extended. It takes savings, patience, and foresight to maintain. But in a fiat system, why would anyone save? Your money loses 2% per year minimum, your interest rate's a joke, and Jerome Powell has one finger on emergency QE and the other on a Chardonnay spritzer. So what do people do? They consume the capital. They liquidate machines instead of replacing them. They outsource supply chains to cut corners. They skimp on maintenance, training, inventory. They turn long-term assets into short-term bonuses. Strip mining the future to hit this quarter's numbers. Capital becomes a target, not a treasure. It gets sold off, leveraged, securitized, turned into derivatives, and passed around like a drunk at a frat party. And the next thing you know, your infrastructure is crumbling, your hospitals are short-staffed, and your job now consists of sending Slack messages to 6 people in 6 time zones about a Zoom call that could have been an email. Because that's what capital decay looks like. It's not Mad Max, it's strip malls, potholes, beige cubicles, $17 DoorDash fees for food made by a robot in a shipping container behind a Wendy's. And the worst part, no one notices, because the deadline is hidden by debt and money printing. They prop up zombie companies, subsidize failure, and confuse GDP with actual wealth. You get the illusion of prosperity while the productive foundation turns to mush beneath your feet. Fiat doesn't just misprice time, it liquefies it. It takes structures that took decades to build and melts them into spreadsheets, bailouts, and broken incentives. By the time the collapse comes, the capital's already gone, the machines are used, the workers are demoralized, their skills are forgotten. All that's left is a central bank press conference, a stimulus check, and a LinkedIn post about resilience. Let's wrap this up and talk about how Bitcoin reintroduces capital sanity into this mess. So how do we rebuild? How do we fix a staircase that's been vandalized, soaked in gasoline, and lit on fire by central banks wearing Keynesian clown wigs? You start with money that can't lie. This is where Bitcoin enters as a civilizational reset button for capital formation. Let's walk through this slowly. Fiat money distorts the interest rate, the signal that tells entrepreneurs what people actually want and when they want it. Bitcoin, by contrast, reintroduces scarcity and time preference back into the system. No printing, no manipulation, no arbitrary cost of capital set by a bunch of bureaucrats in a marble building who haven't run a business since college. With Bitcoin, the signal is clean. Savings actually means something. Capital accumulates based on real sacrifice, not monetary hallucination. And entrepreneurs, they get punched by reality again in the best possible way. Now they know if people are saving, I can invest in long-term projects. If the price of borrowing rises, it means capital is scarce, not that Jerome sneezed. If I screw up, I lose money, not get a bailout and a TED Talk. Bitcoin forces discipline. It lengthens time horizons. It rewards delayed gratification, intelligent planning, and roundabout production. In short, Bitcoin restores the staircase one honest step at a time. This is why Bitcoin isn't just a hedge, it's a framework for rebuilding capital structures that aren't built on sand and slogans. You want cathedrals again? Factories, long-term research, durable infrastructure? then you need money that can't be faked. Because fake money builds fake stairs, and real money builds civilizations. This is the core of the Austrian vision. Let's end with what Austrian economics actually offers. Not just a critique of the madness, but a blueprint for building real wealth in a broken world. And it starts here. Structure, not stack. Capital isn't Minecraft, it's not just blocks on blocks. It's precise structure where each tool, process, and investment fits into a specific stage of production. Confuse the order, misallocate the parts, you don't get less output, you get nothing. Just wasted time, rusted machines, and YouTube ads for passive income secrets. The foundation is savings. All that structure stands on one thing. Savings are time plus discipline. They represent people who consumed less today so something greater can be built tomorrow. No savings, no staircase. Just escalators to nowhere funded by debt. Coordination, here come the entrepreneurs, the mad architects, their role to coordinate the structure. Not guess, not gamble, but align tools, time, and talent to deliver real value when it's actually needed. They're not job creators, they're signal interpreters, reading prices, watching trends, and navigating risk. Signaling, and that's only possible when interest rates are real. No distortion, no money printers, just true signals that tell builders this is viable, this is worth doing, this will serve future humans. Consequences. Distort the signal, you don't just get inefficiencies, you destroy the structure. You turn prosperity into illusion. You get empty skyscrapers, zombie corporations, fiat-funded TikTok startups, and people genuinely confused about why they can't afford a house and a New York strip steak at the same time. Real prosperity is not about more stuff. It's the ability to produce complex things over time, consistently, sustainably, intelligently, without guesswork. Mainstream econ gives you GDP graphs and fantasy multipliers. Austrian econ gives you an X-ray of the production process. It shows you how a society builds, sustains, and preserves wealth, and when that wealth is fake. Let me leave you with this. Civilization is not consumption. It is a staircase made of tools, memory, patience, and people who can see past tomorrow. And that's what Bitcoin gives you back. A clean foundation, a restored signal, a future worth climbing toward. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed this content, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you'd like me to comment on next. My name is Adam Livingston. I am the Bitcoin Wizard. Please share this with your family and friends and whoever needs to escape the matrix. Have a terrific day. Class dismissed.